Multiple winter storms are on the way, so if you are a fan of winter weather, you will certainly appreciate this forecast. If not, well, we must prepare for it regardless. The first winter storm is a weekend system now moving into the picture. Already over a foot of snow is forecast for some areas of the Midwest. We will begin with the important details on that first storm, and then we will discuss a time frame for next week that also carries a risk of a winter storm. We will then conclude the video by discussing this unusual pattern as a whole and what it could bring as we get deeper into the month of December. I have reason to believe that we could continue to see these surges of very cold air, and of course, if that air meets with moisture, we will continue to have chances for winter storms. So we will cover that at the very end of our discussion. My name is Mitch, and I wish you a good Thursday evening. I hope you all had a wonderful Thanksgiving and a happy Thanksgiving to you. I am very thankful for everyone on this channel, and I truly appreciate you giving me a platform to talk about what I love, which is the weather. Please subscribe if you have not already, and like the video if you find it helpful. If there is anything I can pray about for you, please leave it in the comments below. Let us begin our detailed forecast tonight, as we have a great deal to go over. We will start with the first winter storm. As I said, this system is already beginning to move in, but we will start our timeline with tomorrow morning. Now this map is in Eastern time, so it says 9 a.m. Eastern time. You will need to adjust that back 1 hour for Central time. So we are going to look at the NAM model here and focus on it for clarity. We can already see this area of heavy precipitation. It is a band of heavy moisture moving across the Dakotas and starting to move into areas of Nebraska. Now, we will continue to move forward in time here using approximately 6-hour intervals. By about 2 or 3 o'clock tomorrow afternoon, you can see that snow is starting to move into parts of Iowa at this point. It will also be in areas of extreme southwest Minnesota. And we have this band of snow. It looks narrow on the map, but it is quite substantial, going through areas of the Dakotas. And this could be quite heavy snow wherever it is falling. However, some areas will have a sharp cutoff, such as Rapid City not getting anything, while Pierre will be getting snow. We will continue to move this into tomorrow evening. This is around 8 or 9 o'clock tomorrow night. Very heavy snow begins to move into areas of Iowa. And I know you see this green color around the blue. Blue represents snow, and green typically represents rain. But in this case, this green is not rain, it is also snow. So please just disregard that color difference. There is a bit of a wintry battleground developing here in Omaha. Now, I do believe this is rain farther south, and you can see the pink and purple shades. Do not focus too much on the exact colors, but this could be a wintry mix of some sleet and perhaps even some freezing rain. In fact, a little bit of ice is forecast down in this region. Now, let us not completely ignore Wyoming over here. Some snow could be falling in Casper, and a little bit of snow is expected across the Rockies of Colorado. It is still snowing back in Bismarck and Pierre. But as we continue to move this forward, we will go to what we will call the middle of the night tomorrow night. This is around 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, and it will be snowing in Minneapolis. A major question is how far north this band of snow will get. It is still snowing back here in the Dakotas. We even have a trailing area of snow in western Nebraska. And there is that wintry mix, for instance, in Lincoln. It is snowing in Omaha on this model run, but a wintry mix of sleet, freezing rain, and maybe snow is expected in this area. That is because a low-pressure system is moving in, bringing a lot of warm air at higher altitudes. It might be cold enough at the surface for winter weather, but aloft, many of those snowflakes are melting. So let us go ahead and shift this a little bit more to the east, and let us get this back in motion. Now, this is when it becomes honestly fascinating to me. I have been talking to some people here in St. Louis on social media. St. Louis is in a very challenging forecast area. Now, this is 6 or 7 o'clock or so in the morning on Saturday morning. And listen, this right here could be very heavy, wet snow in St. Louis. I am talking about snowflakes that are quite large. This could be a heavy, wet snow to start your morning on Saturday in St. Louis. The question is, will it stay as snow? I do not believe it will. But let us continue to put this in motion. For Chicago, it will be snowing quite heavily at daybreak on Saturday. You can all tell I love talking about snow. I live here in central South Carolina. We hardly ever see snow here, but I am excited for all of you. I know not everybody likes snow, though, but this will be heavy, wet snow in Des Moines, with Dubuque getting snow. Davenport, Quincy, Chicago, Milwaukee, and Oshkosh are all in the path, and it is just starting to move into the Green Bay area. Then we will take it all the way until about midday Saturday, around 11 o'clock in the morning. Around lunchtime, it will be snowing across almost the entirety of Iowa. It will still be snowing back in Omaha and Lincoln. It is impossible to mention every single area, but Minneapolis, you are right on the northern fringe of the heaviest moisture, but it is definitely cold enough to see snow. In Green Bay, it is snowing. Madison as well. These darker corridors of color right here indicate extremely heavy snow, but you can see St. Louis down here. You see how it starts off as snow and then transitions to rain? So you might start off and get a quick few to maybe even several inches of heavy, wet snow, and then it will change to a cold rain. Colder air will follow, however, and could freeze up the snow that does fall. Now, if we continue to keep this system in motion, and I know it is slow moving, but I like to go over all the details in the timeline. This is getting into about 4 or 5 o'clock on Saturday afternoon, and snow will be overspreading the entirety of Michigan. This includes both upper and lower Michigan. Now let us back up just a little bit and discuss this timeline. Look at Indianapolis, a highly populated area. It starts off as heavy wet snow on the NAM model. I know this looks green, but this will be starting off as very large snowflakes. The same situation applies to Evansville. Much like St. Louis, it could start off as very heavy wet snow. In fact, even in areas you see down here in western Kentucky, it could start as extremely heavy, wet snow before it quickly changes to rain. And then we go all the way out to Saturday evening, and we have a full-scale, raging snowstorm across the Midwest and Great Lakes region. I mean, Chicago at this point, on Saturday evening, you will be right in the middle of a classic snowstorm. For those of you who enjoy winter weather, you have not had much of it lately. And I say that on behalf of winter weather fans. I know a lot of people up here are not winter weather fans. I am a huge winter weather fan, as you all know. But Toledo and Detroit will be getting snow. And then we start to move into the middle of the night, which is as far as we can go on the NAM model. From Saturday night into Sunday morning, this is midnight. And this entire snowstorm continues. Peoria and Springfield are still seeing snow. Chicago is still snowing. Detroit and all of Michigan as well. And look how heavy this snow is in Cleveland. Canton and Columbus are even seeing snow. It is even snowing in parts of Cincinnati, down here in the northern areas of Kentucky. This is as far out as we can go on this model. So we will have to start where we leave off here. As we continue to keep this in motion, we get into Sunday morning, and the last little bit of this storm begins to head east. It is still snowing for most of Michigan. But as you can tell, Ohio starts to transition. It could start as heavy, wet snow, but then it will start to switch to just plain rain before cold air filters in behind it. And I do want to provide some information for the Northeast with this system, as the trend has been a little bit colder. This is around midday Sunday, and it does show precipitation moving in. This could be heavy, wet snow across New York State, Vermont, New Hampshire, Maine, northern Pennsylvania, and in the areas of Pennsylvania known for trapping cold air, like the Allegheny Mountains, western Maryland, the Highlands of West Virginia, and the Blue Ridge and Appalachian Mountains of Virginia. This pink shade could be freezing rain, while the orange is a mixture of sleet and freezing rain. And as we start to get into Sunday evening, a lot of these areas could just switch to plain rain. For those along the Interstate 95 corridor, it is just not your turn yet. But please stay tuned. I have a section of the video for you. There could be some potential for winter weather fans. But the interior Northeast will be getting mainly snow, especially in those higher elevations, and then the cold air will filter in behind it. This might create a period of lake effect snow. All right, so now for the part that everyone wants to hear about. Let us make our way from west to east. Now, I know I do not have a large number of people tuning in from Montana, but I feel it is important not to leave Montana out. So, this map is for Montana, showing how much snow you are expecting with this storm. Please pause the screen if you need to. And then we will start to move east. This is North Dakota. Bismarck can expect 2 to 5 inches of snow. Dickinson, 2 to 5. I am just trying to mention a couple of areas. Fargo looks to be just to the north of the heaviest snow. Now, we will drop down to South Dakota. This is where things could begin to change a little bit as far as more heavy snow is concerned. And I must remember to pull up the watches and warnings map to show you who has winter storm watches. I want to show you who has warnings and winter weather advisories. We have had an upgrade from a winter storm watch to a winter storm warning across areas of South Dakota over the last couple of hours. Pierre can expect 2 to 6 inches of snow, Sioux Falls 4 to 6, Brookings 4 to 6, and Watertown 2 to 4. For Aberdeen, we are forecasting 3 to 5 inches. And this is where the outlook becomes a bit more complex. Omaha could see 3 to 8 inches of snow. Lincoln may receive an inch, or perhaps as much as half a foot. For Sioux City, 5 to 11 inches are possible. Some ice is also a possibility in this region, perhaps a couple of tenths of an inch. You know, for York, they are predicting 1/10 to 1/4 of an inch of freezing rain. So, this is indeed the challenging area that could experience a bit of a wintry mix. And then when we look at Minnesota, it will be the southern half of the state. You know, for Minneapolis itself, we could see 3 to 7 inches of snow. At this time, you have a winter weather advisory in Minneapolis. I believe it is possible that could be upgraded to a winter storm warning. You are located just north of the heaviest precipitation, so I would certainly advise you to watch for more frequent updates. Now, for the southern areas of Minnesota, we could see anywhere from half a foot to a full foot of snow. It will vary by location. So continuing to move forward, we will now look at Iowa. Iowa is expected to be a major recipient of heavy, wet snow. A significant portion of Iowa will likely receive at least half a foot of snow. The only areas that might not see as much are the southwestern sections of the state, where the low pressure system will track very closely. But for Des Moines, we are forecasting 8 to 13 inches, and in Ames, 9 to 14 inches. Fort Dodge can expect the same. Waterloo is looking at 9 to 13 inches. Dubuque could see 8 to 12. A little bit of freezing rain could occur in this area, a few hundredths of an inch. I'm sorry, not a couple of tenths, but a few hundredths of an inch of ice is possible. A significant amount of freezing rain is possible in the southwestern parts of the state. I also want to provide an update for the Kansas City area. For areas of northern Missouri, Kirksville could see 4 to 8 inches of snow. Bethany is expecting 2 to 6 inches, and Maryville 1 to 5 inches. But Kansas City may get a wintry mix to begin this storm, but I am not expecting any significant winter weather there. And then we move north into Wisconsin, where Green Bay is forecasting 6 to 8 inches of snow. In this area, it is certainly cold enough for snow. You are just located too far north of the heaviest snowfall band. So, it could be anywhere from 4 to 8 inches of snow across this region. The farther south you are located, the more snow is in the forecast. And then as we move farther south, Eau Claire is expecting 3 to 6 inches of snow. Madison is forecasting 7 to 12 inches. Platteville could see 8 to 12 inches of snow. La Crosse is looking at 6 to 10 inches of snow. Please feel free to pause the screen if you need to at any point. You know, I try to show as many graphics as possible, and sometimes it is unfortunate that these videos do not reach a wider audience, because I truly feel that and this is not me trying to praise myself in any way, but I do feel that I am one of the most detailed weather content creators available that many people do not know about. I understand that not everyone wants to watch a weather video that lasts for 30 minutes, and I certainly respect that. But this is the only way I know how to present the information thoroughly, and this is the way I enjoy doing it, by being as detailed as possible. Milwaukee is forecast to receive 9 to 18 inches of snow. Janesville is also expecting 9 to 18 inches. So in some areas, we are talking about almost 1.5 feet of snow being forecast. We are nearing the 20-inch mark in places like Port Washington. It is truly remarkable, and this is not from lake effect, folks. This is just a good, old-fashioned major snowstorm. The Quad Cities can expect 8 to 12 inches. Freeport is forecasting 8 to 13 inches of snow. Princeton is at 8 to 12 inches. Peoria could see 7 to 11. Now for Chicago, at this moment, let's see if we have an updated graphic. Let's see if we can get some more updates here. Ah, yes. So right now, and I do not blame the forecasters in Chicago for being conservative. Will you let me click on this or not? I should have just kept the graphic up. I do hope you can see that. Well, it is not allowing me to select it. But for Chicago, they are forecasting 6 to 8 inches of snow. Rockford is at 8 to 12 inches of snow. And the Chicago Forecast Office website always seems to act strangely for me. It is not an internet issue on my end. Their site just behaves oddly at times, but hopefully you can see it well enough here. Joliet is expecting 6 to 8 inches of snow.
For Chicago, you could receive much more snow than this. I believe they are being conservative, and I certainly understand why. But heading farther south in Illinois, Lincoln could see 6 to 12 inches, Bloomington 7 to 14, and Peoria 9 to 17 inches of snow.
And if you notice, some of these graphics are slightly different, and that is simply due to the timing of their updates.
The farther south we go, however, the more questions we have in the forecast. So, just 4 to 8 inches in Litchfield, and then we head down to the St. Louis area. Right now, in St. Louis, they are forecasting a quick 2 to 4 inches of heavy, wet snow. But I must tell you,
this is going to catch people by surprise down there on Saturday morning.
I plan to go over some atmospheric soundings for this area in tomorrow's videos, but the conditions are perfectly aligned for heavy, wet, pasty snow once you get down to the Interstate 70 corridor. I mean, this could be some very heavy snowfall.
So I would advise you to continue to tune in for updates around the St. Louis area. At this time, it is 2 to 4 inches. And here are some other areas on your screen. Now, heading back up here into Michigan. More snow is on the way for the Upper Peninsula. Now, some of this forecast combines the ongoing lake effect snow, so you do have to factor that into the totals. A viewer did mention, hey, you skipped Michigan in this morning's video. You are correct. I did not mean to. It is just challenging because they are still combining some of that lake effect snow into this forecast. But Kalamazoo is forecast to receive 11 to 16 inches of snow. Grand Rapids is at 10 to 15 inches. Flint is looking at 4 to 10 inches. My goodness, a lot of snow is on the way. Detroit is forecasting 4 to 9 inches. I know our friends who enjoy the snow in Detroit will be very happy about this. My sincere apologies. I sometimes confuse two of our regular viewers from Michigan, Stephen and Steve. I believe Steve is in Detroit. It is looking like a good one for you, my friend. Enjoy this. I am happy for you. Now, for northern Indiana, we are expecting a major winter event in this area.
A tremendous amount of snow is on the way. Just look at all of these locations. We are forecasting from half a foot to over a foot of snow. It is a tricky area. Indianapolis could get an inch, or it could get half a foot. If we follow the NAM model, you will probably get a half a foot of snow. If you head on up the interstate, Lafayette could see 5 to 11 inches, and Marion 3 to 9 inches of snow.
As you go south of Indianapolis, there is even more of a question mark. A few inches of snow is possible to likely. Evansville is down here at the bottom of your screen. It is a very tricky forecast area. You could get nothing, or you could get an inch or two of snow. For Louisville, and for Kentucky, I would say that just the western to northern areas of Kentucky could get some accumulation. It could be just a dusting. Someone could sneak out an inch or two of snow. And then for northern Ohio, this is a combination of lake effect and the storm system moving in. And this forecast only goes out to 7 o'clock on Sunday morning, folks. So this does not represent the entirety of the storm. But this is how much they are expecting in this area. And this is between now and 7 o'clock Sunday morning.
There could be a little bit more than this, but Cincinnati is expecting about half an inch of snow. Columbus is at about an inch. Dayton could see an inch or two of snow. So now, speaking of the Northeast, it is a tough forecast. The Northeast is tough because you have the lake effect snows that are ongoing right now. So you are essentially combining what is on the way with this weekend storm and what is currently happening with the lake effect snow. So everything is rather blended together here. But as you can tell, the main takeaway from this is that this is an interior New England type of event. The Interstate 95 corridor is not going to get much from this, but I do want to watch for a difficult wintry mix for the favored areas of West Virginia, Western Maryland, the Allegheny Mountains of Pennsylvania, Virginia, and even all the way down into North Carolina. And sure enough, there is a small signal for ice showing up on the European model. A few hundredths of an inch of ice, maybe even a tenth of an inch of ice. I believe there will be a troublesome wintry mix here as we get into Sunday. So we will provide more details on that when we have them. Let's switch gears and talk about next week. So this is for December 1st. Next Monday, we have another system to figure out. Some energy is starting to come together and will kick things off on our Monday morning, December 1st. We have some moderate to light snow flying around across Colorado, northern New Mexico, and Kansas.
And as we continue to move forward, we see a bit of a connection of this moisture with a little bit of light snow flying around here in Oklahoma, eastern Kansas, and into Missouri. Then the pieces could connect here in northern Arkansas, where maybe some snow could occur, but it is more likely to be a wintry mix.
A wintry mix is even possible, dare I say, in places like Memphis and perhaps Little Rock. And then we continue to head on through, and yes, that is some heavier snow showing up in Tennessee. And I think that is very, very possible. Now, if we continue with the European model and we look at the eastern United States, here it comes, and this is when the system becomes more energized. This is for Tuesday morning. It is all rain across the southeast, but you can see the difficult pink shading. That represents freezing rain for the favored cold air damming regions of the North Carolina mountains and the foothills. But that is snow in Middle Tennessee moving into Kentucky, and it is not just light snow, that is heavy snow too. We will have to see how this is going to unfold. There is a small area of light snow to the north, and then a 997 millibar low off the coast of the Mid-Atlantic. That is certainly strong enough to produce significant weather, but will the cold air be in place? The Carolinas look to be mainly rain, most of Virginia too, and the Delmarva and Tidewater areas. But in Northern Virginia, that is snow. In West Virginia, that is snow. For areas of Ohio and eastern Kentucky, that is also snow. And we continue to move forward. And that is snow in New York City, northern New Jersey, eastern Pennsylvania, and Maryland, even Washington, D.C. and Boston. That is heavy, wet snow. A 992 millibar low is off the coast. If this is correct, this would be Tuesday night and Wednesday morning of next week. That would indeed be a snowstorm for Boston. We just have to figure out the details. Now, what about the GFS model? This is running at this very moment, and I believe we have the entirety of the model run. We will take it all the way to Monday morning. I have not even looked at this particular run yet. So the GFS is a lot more aggressive with just a wintry mix in Arkansas, and it does not bring the snow as far south in Oklahoma. But it does show a band of moderate snow moving through Kansas and getting into northern Missouri. This system passes directly over Kansas City and could, if it unfolds this way on Monday, bring some accumulating snow to areas of St. Louis. Pardon me, I meant to say Kansas City, although St. Louis may see some as well. This also points to a messy, wintry mix in central to northern Arkansas. We will have to watch and see if the GFS model is correct on this. The system then progresses to the east. And here we go. Let us update this view. And here is the GFS model. That is storm system number 1, which we have already broken down. Here comes the second storm system, which is a very strong low pressure area. The center of this low pressure is tracking directly across the Appalachians, so this will be all rain across the Mid-South. This system is tracking farther north, and it would essentially be snow falling on top of more snow from the prior system. Notice that cold air damming signature appearing in the typical areas, the foothills and mountains of the Appalachian Range. As we get into Tuesday morning, the low pressure moves across the Carolinas, and this is developing into a significant winter storm for Ohio, but we will let that go for now. What I find truly surprising is the 8 to 14-day temperature outlook. I think this forecast is incorrect, and I always get excited to look at this in the winter to see if it backs up what we are seeing in our model guidance. This did not make me excited this afternoon, and I believe it is incorrect. And then we will have to carefully watch what happens after that. So, what about the potential for snow from this? This is the European Ensemble model, which provides data in 3-day increments. It shows a footprint of snow across areas of the Central Plains and Missouri. 1 to 2 inches of snow are possible from this, which might be enough for winter weather advisories. This first signal pertains to what may happen this weekend. This next part is for what could happen as we move into early next week. There is a small signal for a few hundredths of an inch of ice, according to a blend of all the models, appearing in Arkansas, Missouri, and generally through the mid-Mississippi Valley area. Next, let us turn our attention to the signal for the eastern United States. That large area of snow you see right here is what is happening at the moment. Then, what you see appear again in this area is the strong signal we are seeing for the winter storm risk next week. A couple of inches of snowfall is the average across the Ohio Valley, but a few inches of snowfall is the average across the Northeast.
I mean, just look at Northern Virginia and the Mid-Atlantic.
So that is a very significant amount. Please pardon me, I am getting a little distracted by our dog barking in the background, and I do apologize for that.
But this is a strong signal for the Northeast. In fact, we even have a 4 to 5 inch snowfall average across areas of New England. So that is a fairly solid signal. And if we do look at the ice from this system,
there is a bit of a signal for this too.
This here is the ice signal for the potential midweek storm as we get into next week. Then this is a combination of the weekend storm and what could happen next week across the Mid-Atlantic. So we will continue to sort through this information as it becomes clearer.
Our primary focus is on the system this weekend, and then we will be able to provide very specific details on this potential winter storm for next week. So let us talk about the overall weather pattern. I have reason to believe that December is going to continue to deliver cold Arctic air down into the lower 48 states, and with it, the potential for winter storms. We will begin by looking at next week. This area in blue and green indicates lower pressure, which is associated with storms. Then you see the areas in red, orange, and pink, which represent higher, more stable pressure. I seem to have forgotten my drawing tool, so I cannot draw on this map at the moment, but I may bring it up shortly. This is a signature of a ridge spiking up into Alaska. We refer to this as a negative EPO. In simple terms, this pattern helps dislodge cold air and sends it down into an active storm track. You see this small extension in blue right here? This is lower pressure, which is our signal for a storm system next week. And this is our cold air source, which will pump into the moisture associated with that low pressure. We will continue to move past this time frame. I want to watch what happens later next week, though I know we are looking pretty far out into the future. There is another signature appearing here. Whether this is a cold and dry signature, I am not yet sure. But this is all the way out in the 6th, 7th, and 8th time frame. So, next weekend, you can see this trough. And this is from the European Ensemble Model 2. It is one of the best tools we can look at for the long range. That is a strong signal for a trough digging down into the eastern United States and a prominent ridge out west. So once again, this pattern will bring cold air and the potential for another storm next weekend. Then we continue, and you must understand, this gets out into a very uncertain time frame. But what I continue to see is a troughing pattern over areas of Canada and the northern sections of the United States. You can think of this entire blue area as a huge source of cold air. It is like a detached area of the polar vortex. Any storm systems that develop down here to the south will have plenty of cold air to tap into, which brings a risk of winter weather. And, you know, we go all the way out to the 10th of the month and we see some movement. But one thing that remains clear is this large area of blue up here. So I believe that we will continue to have pushes of cold air down into the lower 48 states. Basically, what we are doing here, because of all this cold air up here, is establishing a very reliable source. And this blue does not necessarily mean cold air by itself, but it represents the troughing pattern that brings the cold air with it. It looks like we are creating a quote-unquote glacier, if you will, for our cold air source area. We are thoroughly freezing the regions where our cold air originates, which is right up here. So, you know, a lot of times when cold air drops down from the higher latitudes, it has an opportunity to modify and warm up a bit. Well, in this pattern, it might not do that. In fact, it could trend even colder. To put it more simply, it continues to look like we have a very strong cold air source to the north that could impact us multiple times throughout the month of December. And this forecast goes all the way out to about the 10th or 11th. If we look at the European ensemble regarding temperatures compared to the average, you will see the blues and greens. This indicates colder temperatures. Technically, it means colder than average temperatures. So, you know, if your average temperature is 55 degrees and they are forecasting 10 degrees below average, then your actual temperature might be in the mid-40s. I do hope that makes sense. Now, the warmer colors you see on your screen represent above average temperatures.
We are going to start this off for next Tuesday, and what you will notice is that below average temperatures continue for the central and eastern United States.
You may remember when we were talking about the potential for a significant warm-up to start December. You can go ahead and put that thought out of your mind because it is not happening anymore. We go about a week from today, and it still looks cold across the eastern United States. The western United States looks quite warm. And then, are we going to warm up? Perhaps. I am not certain, but I am not confident that we will. We go all the way to next weekend, and another pool of cold air drops down into the eastern United States. Okay, and I do think the pattern will try to fight the ridge, but even after we get into the second week of December, around the 8th, 9th, and 10th, another push of cold air drops down, and it just continues. And if you take a larger look at this, our cold air keeps dropping down from the same area up here. It is just one blast of cold air after another. So that reinforces what I was just showing you. Now, what really surprises me, and it just occurred to me, so I will bring this up right now, I did not show you the watches and warnings for the winter storm that is about to move in this weekend. But we will let that go for now. What I find particularly interesting is the 8 to 14-day temperature outlook. I must say I have some questions about this outlook. I always get excited to look at this in the winter to see if it supports what we are seeing in the model guidance. This afternoon, this did not align with my expectations, and I believe it may be inaccurate. This 8 to 14-day temperature outlook runs from the 5th through the 11th of the month. I do not think we are going to have above average temperature chances, or rather, I just do not think we will have above average temperatures for this area of the southeast. I do think we will have below average temperatures for this area. Absolutely. But I do think they should have extended this blue area down much further. So I am not sure what information led them to that conclusion. If anything, I would have kept temperatures near normal, dropping all the way down into Alabama, Georgia, and Mississippi. But, you know, we can get lost in the finer details of this all day long. This is the 6 to 10 day temperature outlook. This covers the 3rd through the 7th. I suppose this makes more sense. However, I would have probably trimmed back this warm area a little bit more. It is just a strange climate prediction center outlook for today. I simply do not understand the reasoning behind it. So let us speak about the MJO. I know this is a long video, and I am just talking on and on. I truly enjoy the weather, folks. And speaking on the Madden-Julian oscillation, we mentioned, and I do not have a tool to draw on this, that phases 4, 5, and 6 are our warm phases. Phase 7 is what we are in right now. Okay. This phase favors cold air coming into the United States, but a lot of times it has to fight off a ridge of high pressure over areas of the southeast and the southern tier of the country, and even the eastern United States sometimes. But it favors a significant drop of cold air, which is exactly what we are getting right now. Today is the 27th, so we should be in phase 7 right now. Phases 8, 1, and 2 are the cold phases. We are heading directly toward phase 8, everyone. And on the latest European model, it has us moving there quickly by next week and then getting fully into phase 8. And please understand, phase 8 is a cold and wintry weather pattern for December in the central and eastern United States, and for almost the entirety of the country. So we are getting there. We are getting to a very favorable phase. And folks, what I think is going on is that the computer models are really struggling with this complex pattern. They are having a very difficult time with the forecast, the progression of the Madden-Julian oscillation and its effects. Now, I believe we are seeing a mixture of high latitude blocking, a stretched polar vortex, and that sudden stratospheric warming. That is quite a bit of complex information, and I decided to step back from discussing the stratospheric warming about a week ago. I simply do not believe we are knowledgeable enough on that subject to speak on it with full confidence. I can only speak for myself, of course. But after reading the thoughts of many experts, it is clear that opinions on the sudden stratospheric warming are varied, and no one has a firm handle on it yet. That is why I have paused my discussion on it. But what we do know for certain is that there has been a disruption at the top of the globe, which dislodges Arctic air to the south. When you combine that with the fact that we are heading toward phase 8 of the Madden-Julian oscillation, the outlook becomes quite favorable. It truly does. So that is all I have for you tonight. I appreciate you all. Hopefully, this video is shared widely because I put a great deal of energy into this one. I was quite excited about it. I have noticed that my videos are not reaching as many people lately. I am not sure if this is unique to my channel,
as I have not looked at what other creators are experiencing. It could be that most of my audience is here in the South, and folks in the South may not want to hear about snow in the North. I cannot be certain what the reason is.
But I certainly hope these videos start to reach more people because I am having a wonderful time
discussing all of this with you. So God bless you all. Have a wonderful night. We will do this again tomorrow morning.